All right, Connie, are you here? I see you just signed in.
I am here.
Okay, we hear you.
Hold on. It's not switching over. That's entertainment. Good. I have a video, so it's even better. Awesome. You know, it's par for the course today. Well, here's what we have done. I'm trying to get this to switch over to video, and I have a company called Good Horse Sense. Can you hear me, Lacey?
We can hear you. We can only see your chin.
Lacey.
So if you can tilt your video up a little bit, your camera up. There you go. All right, we can see you.
Because it's not, well, okay, good, because it's not showing me that we can see me at all. So it's awesome. It's awesome. So I'm Connie. This is Valerie. How's that? I have done next lard, olive oil, coconut oil, and castor oil, and mixed it with a live, and it's in the pan. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yeah, hold it up a little bit. We can see it.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, there we go. And so what we'll do is we'll hit it with a stick blender, because you want it. What they used to do in the olden days is they would stir and stir and stir and stir. But I'm not that kind of human where I really want to stir like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit it, but while we're going to pour it in this little tiny mold. Can you see this mold? Are we frozen? Yes, I'm frozen.
No, you're good. We see your mold.
This is okay. Good. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to hit this with a stick blender, and so you'll hear a vibrating buzz. So the reason why I got started doing soaping was because I have food intolerances, and I wanted to figure out if it was hitting my skin too, and not just my GI tract. And so I discovered that I could do soap and it's great, and why bother doing it? So it will not let me get a video. That's okay.
We can see you.
We're going to hit it with a. Yeah, I'm so glad you all can see me, because I look so like a moron. Now, can you all see how it's coming together?
Mm-hmm.
Right here, it emulsified, so it turned white from that green of an olive oil. Then it's turning white and getting. So I've always been a gardener with Cabell County. I always loved my herbs and flowers and so on and so forth. And when I discovered that I could use those in soap products, then I decided that was going to be the best way to do it. So I infuse on a regular basis. This is Yellow Dock, and it looks kind of green, but it turns the soap the prettiest pink that you've ever seen. Okay. And I use a netto seed, and this is all this is rice bran oil that are in these jars. And so I've done infusions. So when I'm then I'll use those colors within that soap to have either bright colors or muted colors. Does that make sense? And it's just kind of fun to do that with. And I'll let this sit here and come to trace on its own, because it's about 104 degrees of heat to do that. And so there you go. Do you guys have any questions about how to kind of do that? Has anybody made soap? Can you still hear me, Lacey?
Yeah, I can hear you. Debbie says Debbie is on here. We have a guest, Debbie. She says yes, she has made soap before.
Debbie.
Are you?
Great.
We can't see the bottom of the pan. Are you heating it? Is it on a stove?
Nope. I have a stove beside it, but what I did was I let the heat of the lye solution
Okay.
melt those harder oils, like the coconut oil that's in there and the lard.
Okay.
And it's kind of saves time, especially hydration, and I don't have a lot of electricity, or I don't have the capacity to do that outside. Then I can do that. I know what recipes are going to work real well, so I can just do that. So here, I'm going to hold this up for you so you can see it. See how
Beautiful.
it looks?
Mm-hmm.
Still pretty warm. And so we're going to let this sit for a few minutes so that you guys can see what that process down the road. But I'm going to let Valerie talk a little bit about herbs, because we all use herbal preparations, whether it's a salve, a lip balm, a tea, a tincture, any of those. We just have to make sure that we all are using guidelines to label that stuff appropriately. Like I saw somebody local did a salve and it had a thing that said plantain, calendula, and comfrey salve, but there wasn't any weights on it. It didn't tell you anything else about that. Like, what is the oil in it? And I won't use any almond oil or sweet almond oil. I won't use. What else will you use, Shay? And I won't use soy. Right. Because I'm allergic. So you're not going to find that in one of my products. And they're cheaper oils, but people need to know what those oils are, like rice bran or palm or lard or tallow. And I love using bear fat, but we just can't sell that in the state of West Virginia. But it makes a great soap for my family and friends because of the legalities of selling a tagged item. And God knows they have enough fat on them, so why feed the coyotes? I wash myself with it, right? Lacey's laughing. So
I'm with you, sister. Amen.
And so we what I did was I went through the West Virginia Growing Program. I learned how to label better. I've taken classes with the Handcrafted Soapers Guild and looked at the FDA about what those regulations are. A true soap, no claims. Soap is soap. You don't want a natural colorant in it. Fragrance oils, that kind of thing. I think the community needs to know what the heck is in that soap. Does that make sense? Because if you don't, and a kid picks it up, and let's say that I've used tallow, and he has a tick allergy because I've had those kinds of things that you're going to branch out and sell like we do. Yeah, I mean,
okay. Yeah, there's several, even the same with herbs. There's herbs that have great uses.
Can you see Valerie?
For instance,
yeah,
oregano.
we can see her.
It can be used as a spice. Everybody knows you use it in pasta, spaghetti, things like that. But oregano is a mint, so you can steep it into a tea and it has a minty flavor.
And it's really good for like a cold, a cough.
Menstrual cramps.
It really helps to decrease some of those aches and pains. Does that make sense to you all as well? Lacey's doing a head bob. Yep.
Yeah, Connie.
And Dimples is doing it too.
Before we get too much further, you mentioned a resource I'm going to share with folks in the chat box. The Handmade Soap Guild, is that right? Or
it's called the Handcrafted Soapers Guild.
Okay, Handcrafted Soap
and Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetics Guild.
Okay, cool. Do they have a Facebook page or a website?
Yeah, they do have a Facebook page.
Website.
They have a website, and it talks about lye soap. And people come to you and say, "We don't want lye soap." Well, sorry, folks, but you can't have soap without lye. Right. You just can't. And if somebody's marketing it that way, Good luck to them, because it has to have that lye as a saponification process.
And it's not soap, it's a detergent.
It's a detergent. But do you see how she's pulling together? And I'll probably hit her again with that stick blender just to help her out a little bit. Yeah. So there's a Handcrafted Soapers Guild. There's a local chapter, and it's in Kentucky. And they're great humans, can answer different questions for you that way as well. There's the Indie Business Network. Unique Makers is another group of women and men who come together and to help educate people about what's going on. Does that make sense too? Because if we don't do that and you're not getting yourselves educated, you're going to do detriment long term. So we've invested a lot of time and energy. I mean, Valerie's gone through the Herbal Academy is another resource where she's taking courses that way. I have too through the Herbal Academy. I did an herbal entrepreneur class this winter while being off from work on COVID. And if we can do those kinds of things, then we make sure that we are not only doing things the right way, but we're ethical with the use of what the herbs we're using. And I don't think that we cannot be enough ethical in this time.
Exactly.
Just like when the whole COVID thing hit, there's a big argument whether elderberry syrup was going to help or be a detriment because of the cytokine release that happens with this. Well, come to find out 7 months later, sure enough, elderberry syrup is one of the best things you could take as a health preventative because it's full of vitamins and minerals.
One of the things that helps with COVID is vitamin C. And one of the things that elderberry is very high in vitamin C and antioxidants and all these good yummy stuff.
So, Lacey, you're because I can't see myself now. So you can see how this is coming together, and she's turning whiter and whiter and whiter. Okay? And we want her to get thick. Do you see how different that's changed a little bit? And what we're trying to get to is trace. And that's a term we use within soaping, not to negate anybody else's education, but you don't know. If you're just trying to learn this, watching internet or Pinterest, you don't understand trace. And what trace looks like is when you first made your cake batter and it's super light and it's just emulsified together. So, but the more that I stir this, the thicker she's gotten. And she's about ready to pour. Okay. So go ahead.
And once you make soap so often, you'll start seeing trace in everything that you cook, make, and everything.
Right. Whether it's you're making jams or jellies, I'm looking at trace. Or I see pictures of things. Oh my gosh, look at that stream. Boy, that mud it's a trace now. Trace. Yeah. Just
People
because
think you've lost your mind, or
yeah, I have lost my mind. So then all I'll do is just go ahead and pour, and she's done. And then I'll let her sit for 24 hours and then unmold it out of these little molds. And there's additives that, like if I added salt to this, I would have to pour it into individual molds because it sets up right now. There's not an if, no ands, no buts about it. It sets up and you barely can cut it. And even if I sat here and I hot processed this, and this is cold process, this method that we just used, because the oils were cold, the lye was warm, and I'm kind of like, I want to see something happen and be done with it. I don't want to sit and have to stir it for a really long time, like making apple butter, because I want it to go all together, and then I don't want to sit there and baby it. Right. But you got to baby apple butter or it'll burn. So there is the end result of that, and we'll leave it there. But Valerie brought some herbs, and we're going to talk about teas a little bit real quick. I know this is a really quick overview of, herbs. Like the herbs that I use in soap, I use lemon balm because the antiviral, constituents of that for lip balms. It's great as a lip balm. I use arnica, St. John's wort. I use plantain. What else? Jewelweed. Jewelweed for, you know, anti-itch, for poison ivy antidote, basically. And then I'll combine that with a little bit of comfrey in my soap because it's just such a great skin healer. So I get it all in one package.
And comfrey also makes a great tea.
And there's gripes about whether you can drink the tea or not, but you know, it's just like anything in excess. I can have one beer, but I shouldn't have a three, you know, because that probably wouldn't be too good for anybody.
Right. The comfrey tea is like an old school.
It is a very old school folk medicine, and that's one of the things that we don't have here. Are books about what our Appalachian West Virginia heritage is through folk medicine. And I would love to see something to that effect happen. So
a lot of the things I learned were from my grandfather, from my husband's uncle who raised him, who was organic and all natural. And I mean, he raised bees and he did all this stuff, and just the wealth of knowledge that we lost with that 90-year-old man was amazing.
So when you look at doing use honey in products, you can cook your honey down. If you infuse your honey with, let's say, lemon balm, and infuse that totally down, what a great antiviral medicine that you just made with that honey, because you want it thick like snot. When you stuck your finger in the honey, granted, you're going to have a little bit of a string, but I want it thick like a nasty old booger. I want it thick. Come on, I want to see Dimples grin again. I want to see it thick, but that is a great healing salve that I've made to put on my horses when they've gotten cut. It was natural. It's got a lot of antibacterial properties to it, and it really did heal a great big wound treating that once a day. So that's kind of where I look at what can I do with my herbs, or if my dogs have a skin ailment, itchy skin due to flea bites, then I'm going to use some myrrh powder. It was great enough for Jesus. I think it's great enough for my dogs too. And it really has worked well, you know. See, look, Dimples is grinning. So we look at all kinds of stuff. So Val's got her teas.
I've got a regular tea, which I'm talking about, which is just nice. You put it in a tea.
Can you see it?
Put it in just a plain tea ball thing.
Right.
Steep it out. Tastes like mint. It's wonderful. Okay. It has so many different qualities. We also have lemon balm and hibiscus. I don't have those in jars, but there's the tea ball.
These are your tea balls, okay? And you can get these pretty cheaply. When the store was going out in the mall, they're stainless steel tea balls, and it helps you figure out what dosage you want to do anyway, because some things can get really, really bitter.
Oh yes.
When you're steeping it, and how long should I steep that for as well? So that's a tea ball. I also use a
oh, you have that. That's the ricer.
This is a ricer, okay, and it's a stainless steel ricer. If I want to do a press and then squeeze and get as much of that herbal goodness as I can get out of that, and like for a natural colorant for a bath bomb, I've done sweet pea. Now look, you can see your color. You see your blue?
Yeah,
and
that's beautiful.
It really is, and it's just from tea flowers. And what I did was I steeped that in water, and then added about 50% alcohol to that, 100 proof vodka. And so that'll last on my shelf for a long time. I have a ready-made blue. It won't stain my bathtub. And it's just really, really nice to sit there and do that kind of stuff with. But things that we use, good manufacturing processes. I came in here earlier today and wiped everything down with alcohol, which has been a really bear to get. But I also knew that I had Everclear that I use with tinctures. That's going to work because you want to clean that off. And I want to lower, I want to mix that a little bit, kind of like you do a Clorox in a water solution. If I'm doing the alcohol, I want to bring that down to about 71%, leave that on that surface, let it dry naturally, and it will absolutely kill germs and gross, nasty things. So
one of the scourges of most farms is burdock.
yep.
Has beautiful flowers, but the root has so many purposes. It can be used in soap. It can be used.
It uses a tea, and here's your burdock root, okay? And so, like, I'll clean my edge off, and it has a chocolate flavor to it, like there's a sweetness to it, and almost a coffee flavor combined in there. And that is such a nice root to do. And I'm not going to say I cured anybody, but I gave my dad burdock root tea when he had a bad surgery 2 years ago. And it really helps as a blood cleanser, and it really helped get all the nasty goo that they had put in him out. And the nephrologist was like, wow. And I said, yeah. So she's been doing some research, and she'll call me and say, okay, what about this? Like use the Irving, or what about yarrow? Could we do a tincture with yarrow? And I said, yeah, what are your constituents with yarrow? And she said, well, this book says, I said, yeah, go ahead. And that it has an antibacterial property, but it's also a blood, it'll stop bleeding quick. So I have that on the hill. It's Stipit, yeah. Or feverfew, if I have a headache and I don't want to take any medicine, then I'm going to go to the front yard and I'm going to pull that out and I'm going to chew on a leaf, which is absolutely the most bitter thing that you've probably ever consumed. Yes. But my headache will go away in less than 15 minutes. So, and you can't have an aspirin allergy because there's where it goes. Willow bark is the same. So, and I do use preservatives in my products because I am selling them, and I want to make daggone good and well that is as preserved as I can get it with the least amount. So I use liquid germol a lot. I use Optifin, Euxerol. So, you know, when somebody says, well, daikon seed extract, which is a radish, is a antioxidant, sure, that what that's going to do is not let the rest of the oils within that infusion go rancid as quick. So if you combine those together, then that helps increase the shelf life of that product. Does that make sense? Okay. So like with things that are have no water included, you don't have to do that, like a salve, a lip balm, an ointment. You don't have to add that, but I will add antioxidants, natural antioxidants to that to make sure and ensure that it has a good long shelf life. Because I don't know if somebody buys a wholesale product from me, how long it's going to sit on their shelf before it gets used. So, but I have insurance. We both have insurance that we use when we sell our products. We have gone through every step we could do in the state of West Virginia to make sure that what we are doing is a compliance, and hopefully we can educate others about that as well.
Oh, we just lost your video, Connie. Oh, there, you're back.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Right.
Yeah, I have a quick question before we go on. Can you talk about sourcing your ingredients? You know, if I'm a beginner soap maker or want to get into making herbal products, what are some of your go-to resources for sourcing, whether it's herbs? It sounds like you forage some of those and grow some yourself, or the lye.
That's what I did.
Yeah,
okay,
tell us about
there
sourcing.
are resources that you're going to do, like Frontier brand co-op. You can get organic, and I would rather get organic, grown herbs through a reputable dealer as opposed to somebody on Etsy that I don't know if they've just repackaged them or how they've done that. So I'm going to go to that source. Mountain Rose Herbs is another one. Well, it's one of our go-tos.
Those are probably
those are the two main ones that I use.
Other than growing it yourself and
right. Well, like I know that Paradise Farms in Dunbar, which is an urban farm, is growing fresh ginger, which is something that shouldn't grow here, but they have it in a high tunnel, and they're really monitoring it. and it's getting pretty good size. And so I have first dibs on that ginger and to make fire cider with. So so I'm going to get it from somebody that I know. So Lacey, what if you had something that I didn't know, or like you hooked me up with a West Virginia folks that are growing lavender here in the
Wonder
state.
Valley.
Right. Yeah. That I want to partner with those folks. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's great and great to hear for sure. What about some of your, the oils that you mentioned that obviously might be a little bit harder to come by locally? Where might you go for your rice bran oil or your lye or things of that nature?
I get lye. You can get it from the Chemistry Connection. There's also the Lye Guy, and they're out of the southern states. I get mine through Essential Depot because I like the quality, and I'll show you here. Like even my potassium hydroxide that I use when I'm making. Okay, so you see your glass jar. These are just little pellets, and they melt so nicely in that water, or beer, or wine, or whatever I'm going to use.
Or milk.
Or milk.
Better be frozen though.
It has to be frozen milk. Or if I add honey to it, it has to be frozen. Like I get honey from, sorry, I had my honey here and my bees absconded. Whatever reason they did, and they even came back and robbed their own dagnab hive. But I have friends that have apiaries, and so I get fresh honey from Leger Produce and Hurricane because I want it local, or Hope's Harvest is another one, or Dave Tackett in Barbersville. So I, when they say, hey, we've got honey, we've pulled, I'm getting, $200 worth of honey so that I make sure that I have it right there. I get goat's milk. I don't have goats here. I have horses here. Nobody's bred, so I'm not going to be pulling milk off of anybody, but I can go to several different farms and get fresh goat milk, which it just makes a soap luxurious. I mean, it adds some vitamins and minerals to it. Depends on what that goat eats too.
It just feels silky.
It feels silky. Or like if I get Tussa Silk, there's Wild Herb Soap Company. I get mango butter from Soaper's Choice. So there's just a lot of different places that I get stuff through, and it depends on. Right now, one of the most difficult things for me as a soap maker, doing this for a living, is getting supplies in. Some of my jars and like foamer pumps, I can't get till March of 2021. So then we've had to step back and punt and figure out what else we needed to do. So then I said, well, I've got some that'll fit on a mason jar. Well, then I couldn't find mason jars. So everybody, I put a word out on Facebook, hey, does anybody have any line on, reasonably priced mason jars? And it came right then and there. So I get hemp oil from Soaper's Choice, grapeseed oil. You can go to your local grocery store and get, if it's good enough to ingest, it sure as heck is good enough to put on your outside skin, other than MSG. But
sunflower oil.
High oleic sunflower oil, I can get at the grocery store as well.
That's the only place you can find it.
Right. And sometimes if you go and look, and you'll have a deal on olive oil, but it'll be mixed olive oil with 80% sunflower oil.
Right.
So that makes a big challenge. And that makes a big challenge when you're trying to run it through a soap calculator, how you're going to use it. So I get all olive oil, all castor oil. I don't want any mixed oils because I don't know how they've mixed it.
And if you're just a small home soaper making it for your own purposes, one of the best places to get olive oil locally is Sam's Club.
Sam's has a big.
They have the pure
olive
oil.
Get it
for like $12.
Right, $17.99 I think, or $19.99 is what you can get a big gallon jug of olive oil at Wally World. So, but I buy in bulk, like 35 pounds at a time. So.
Yeah, and our guest Debbie just kind of reiterated that point. She said Walmart carries a lot of very sought after oils now, and that makes it very exciting for her.
Well, it does make it
yeah.
exciting, and they're carrying other things too, which like I never thought I would see there, like wheat germ oil, which is amazing for your skin. So, you know,
so I have another story. So you've taught us and suggested where we go for some education. You've told us about the importance of labeling and good manufacturing processes. You've told us about product liability insurance. You've told us about sourcing. Something else I'm curious about, if you don't mind sharing, is marketing. Tell us a little bit about how you market, where you sell your product, how to connect with customers. What's your story on that front?
Well, for me, I mean, and so I do Facebook posts and pictures in real time, not in a light box half the time.
Right.
I've taught a lot of classes locally, soap making classes, and you know, you're getting my knowledge, you're getting Valerie's knowledge. So we're not doing a $50 soap class. I just can't do it for that. Not with what I've invested on myself. So teaching classes has helped really get the word out. I'm at Holy Moly, Red Caboose, the Wild Ramp. I think it's more important for my product line because it's not froofy like Posh. And I don't do like novelty soaps like cupcakes and that kind of stuff. And I don't use any fragrance oils. So using the Department of Agriculture has been a wonderful way for me to get that word out. I mean, I've contacted you, Lacey, I don't know how many times, racked your brain just to confirm what I knew or didn't know. You know, Buddy Davidson, you know, Buddy's wonderful as well. And
especially with labeling.
And then going to, you know, because I do some artisanal soaps that have, you know, maybe a West Virginia scene within them. And, you know, that has helped me get into different festivals that way. But Facebook, you know, and doing
social media, Instagram is a really good resource. It gets out those hashtags that you put on, if you make a post, those hashtags that you put on there, get your name out
far and wide.
Because, for instance, my husband's a veteran, so he's a veteran farmer, and I tend to put on a lot of just about any post I put on.
Veteran farmer. He was actually December's. Yeah, he's my calendar boy for December. So, but when she hashtags West Virginia veteran-owned farm, it goes everywhere.
And we've got followers from all over the United States, also actually all over the world that have followed us because of those hashtags. So it gets the word out in different places. So it helps to get different ideas and gets people different comments. I mean, we have a baby donkey who has her own little cult following.
Right.
I mean, she has her own,
you know, and so what they've done and what we've done at the Putnam Farmers Market is I said, take pictures. I want to know what's going on at that farm all the time. So I've done, I do a Facebook Live every Saturday morning. And it goes on, and then people figure out, oh, you have the donkey, and they'll talk to Valerie about that. And that's kind of what we've done in that. So social media is the big bet.
People want to know what's going on your farm. They want to see what you do and what your barn looks like and what your garden looks like.
Right, and what the soap room looks like. So.
I put my kids in it because my kids are a big part of it. I mean, my kids get involved in the canning and everything, all aspects of it. I mean, right down to labeling. I mean, they think that's the coolest thing ever. I think it's horrendous, but so works out for me.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny. So one of the things like good horse sense, well, then that opened a different market for me because I never really went to equine humans and said, hey, I'm selling this soap. A lot of my friends who had horses didn't even know that I did soap. And so, I mean, I've got people in Missouri, Michigan. They buy soap for me all the time because they like good horse scents. It makes good horse sense to use good horse products.
And you got a lady in Malaysia who
Right.
gets herbs from here.
So like there's a lady in Malaysia that follows us on Facebook because she also she can't get herbs there, and so I don't know how many pounds of plantain
what we go out in the yard to get, she can't get. So
right, she has no
we
plantain.
can try it and ship it to her and
for free, basic
Right.
next to nothing.
right.
So that's how we've done it. What else, Lacey?
So we jumped right into making soap, and we didn't really get to hear a lot of background from you guys. So there's a question: where are you located? Can you tell us briefly? Tell us about your farm, where you are, both you and Valerie, what the name of your farm is, how people can find you, all of that fun stuff that we kind of missed at the beginning.
That's all right. Playing technology. Well, I live 3.5 miles from Milton. In Milton is where my address. I live on what's called Golden Air Farm, and I have a therapeutic riding program that I've run for 26 years. And we have 33 acres. I have 8 head of horses. I have hills and trees and mountains. That's been kind of wonderful with COVID that I can get out and actually see what all that God's gifted me here, from trillium to ginseng to, it's been kind of awesome to see that kind of stuff. I'm an occupational therapist by trade, and a recreational therapist. So I've done a lot with getting farmers back into safe situations after they've had debilitating accidents and so on and so forth. Valerie's farm, hers is G&G Heritage Farms, and she's out of Hurricane. We both sell at the farmers market at Putnam Farmers Market. I've been acting market manager all season because of COVID, and
we both also sell on Turnrow.
We do Turnrow Appalachia as well, so which is a Appalachian cooperative. So there you go. I'm old. My daughter says I'm a boomer.
You're awesome.
My daughter says I'm a boomer, but I'm not really a boomer yet. So
she needs to research what boomer is.
Yeah, she does need it, but that you would think that would get that from school, but we know about school systems right now.
Oh, they don't.
So if I want to find something here, what's Dimple's doing? Yes. I think it's kind of fun to sit and see what we can do with what God has given us. And I think that is one of the best things that we can do when we go to create products. And I want you to see, she's gotten to the point, she's solidifying here.
Yeah, looks great.
She'll be white as all get out. I'm going to get a peek for her. So let Valerie tell you about her a little bit more.
Yeah, I firmly believe that we were not put on this earth without the natural resources to care for our bodies and heal our bodies. And that's kind of the way I was raised. My grandfather had me in the garden in the woods from the time before I could toddle, teaching me the different things. And then as I got older, I learned more. And then we have 4 kids that we adopted from foster care. And along with that came some challenges, and which is one of the reasons that I went to Connie and learned to make soap. And then Connie made the mistake one time of saying, if you ever have a child that needs OT services with birth to 3, let me know. So 9 kids later, she's probably regrets that statement.
No, I love those kids, especially when they come running. I got a funkin'. That was the funniest thing ever. But anyway, so this is the color of this large soap, and here's why I like. Can you see that, Lacey? If I held it down that way.
Yeah, hold it up just a little more. That's good. Yeah.
Okay. So this soap is going to turn as white as it gets. So if I wanted something else that I could use to do that, and the other thing is that I have 2 different slaughterhouses that are close by, and kids within the FFA that'll come over and bring me fat when I ask for it. So I render a lot of my own fats, and then pour them back into buckets that I've gotten from Piggy Wiggy. But anyway, this soap's going to be as white as it can get. So the other thing that I could use to make a white soap like that would be palm oil. And I'm not a real big fan of taking out somebody else's livelihood. So I try not to use palm. I have 2 recipes that I use it in. And the other thing with me is I don't have one recipe and that's all you're going to get. You're going to have rice, bran, soy, da 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 da. Not at all. No. I have different soaps for different needs because just like Val said, she had kids that said, I need something for the skin and it's wearing me out. I don't know what to do. The dermatologist has said this. I said, well, let's try this, this, and this, and this. And Val took that and made her own soap, and it really, and you can tell when they've run out.
Yeah. And then there's this, and I make a salve for my son that he calls his butt cream. He'll come running through.
Right.
I need my butt cream. I need my butt cream, because he knows he'll break out with eczema, and he knows that will soothe it. We had tried everything that was prescription, everything that was over the counter, and but natural was best. Go back to Mother Nature.
Take all the preservatives out of it.
Right.
Take all the junk
out.
Figure
out what it was that was lighting him up.
And it will like his little hind end when he was a baby would be this red. And I'm not kidding you. We were like,
but we had to get so many chemicals in an AS baby, and it took forever to get all those out.
Right. So any other questions, my friend Lacey Davidson?
Yeah, I have one more, but I just wanted to say before the one more question, maybe it's the soap, but you don't look old to me.
Oh, you might be my favorite. Well, and here's the deal. I'm 53 years old, and this is all I use on my face. So,
wow.
I
love it.
I've got really, really good genetics. But a funny story is my dad had a bad surgery 2 years ago. And the nurse kept saying, you can't wash him with your soap. And I said,
I want to make it better.
I said, well, you don't push me after 72 days in there. But they kept washing him with chlorhexidine wipes, which is it is an antibacterial, but it is
it eats the crap out of your skin.
It ate his skin alive. So the lady said, you can't wash him with that soap. And I said, lady, take this chlorhexidine wipe and take my bar soap, and you go wash your private parts. I said, and then you come back and tell me which one you're going to wash with. And she said, I guess you could use your soap. And I said, thank you very much. So my dad got cleaned, and his dermatologist, what did you do? And I said, well, I had to fix this because they would wipe skin off of him, and it was terrible. And I agree with you need to do that initially, like as a surgical scrub. But every single day for 72 days was horrific. It was horrific. And
it's not designed for that either.
It is not designed for that, but that's the way the protocols are running in the hospital. And I've had a physician came to me because he's invested 12 years post-doctoral school, and the surgical scrub took his hide off, like literally he was raw. And he said, what do I do? I said, I'm going to give you something that's super simple. You'll never believe it, but I want you to try it. The hospital will not let him use it, so he is no longer practicing in West Virginia. But it was a plantain salve and a plantain soap. Daggone good and well, through all this COVID stuff, that if we wash our hands with soap and water, we're going to get the germs off. Yes? Yes.
Yeah.
So we lost an amazing physician because he became intolerant to what they said he had to use. So it is what it is, I guess. I don't know. So.
All right. Well, we have 9 minutes now until the end of the hour, and I just have one more question, really just asking you to provide maybe a word of advice here. As people get interested in either this as an agribusiness or maybe selling just herbal products, or maybe they're selling produce, do you have any words of wisdom or recommendation on pricing your products appropriately?
You have to look like a girlfriend of ours sells dried herbs at the Putnam Farmers Market. So one of the things that I advised her was look on Turnrow and see what they're selling on there for. And look at across the country. If you do an Amazon search for dried oregano, what is your pricing going to come up with? And here is an example. Elderberries, dried organic elderberry, not from my farm, but Frontier. We're running about $17 a dried pound if I bought 6 pounds at a time. Pre-COVID. When COVID hit, they went up to $45 a dried pound. And I said, that's wrong. That's not right. If you want to be in business for a really long time and you're invested in what you're doing, sell appropriately. How much time did it take you? How much time did it take us to make this soap? Less than 20 minutes, because we knew what we wanted. We followed a recipe. We put it in the pot. We added our lye water to it. We stirred it up a couple times while we were chit-chatting, and it's done. I don't think a bar of soap should be $8.50, but $6.50 to $7.50 depends on where I had to import my goods from and how I had to pay for shipping right now, which is astronomical.
Some essential oils are very expensive.
Some essential oils are super expensive, like rose. But if I can go in the front yard and get off my husband's grandmother's rose bush and infuse those into oil, I'm not going to get that rose scent to stick through a soap, but it should stick because I'm only heating it to 155 degrees, and it'll stick, and it's just got the faintest rose of hint, and it's wonderful. And if I needed something to smell more like roses, I'm going to use maybe hoe wood, or I'm going to geranium. So, you look at those kinds of stuff. So you look at your price points, you look at your regular markets. You don't want to go to a market and sell dried herbs for twice what everybody else is selling, because they're going to look at you like you're crazy. But you also have to take into consideration your time, what it costs for you to get those herbs and
to grow them, to
process them.
Right. Your processing time, your electric, whether you're using a dehydrator or whether you're doing it in the oven, whatever it is, that's still consuming energy, that's still consuming time, and that's still
and one of the things that you won't find at our Putnam market is that you're not going to find an ounce of herbs. And that's one of the reasons why the lady from Malaysia loved us so much, was because she was like, oh my gosh, I can get cooking sage, I can get oregano, thyme, what all do we have? Rosemary. And they were dried in Kelly's oven, and borage was another one to send out. But I know that if I want borage oil for some of my facial lotions or serums, that's expensive, because have you ever seen the seed of a borage plant? It's like smaller than a mustard seed. So it takes a lot of those to get that out. So you have to be reasonable, I think.
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you both so much for sharing. One last time, just tell us again, how do we find you guys if we want to connect and either buy your product or learn from you in one of your teaching experiences? Where do we get a hold of you?
Well, you can go on Facebook at Good Horse Sense. That's that. And then on the World Wide Web, we have a website called Good Horse Sense, SCENTS.com. Valerie's at G&G Heritage Farm. She's on Facebook as well. And Instagram. I'm on Instagram as well, too. You can call us. You can call me, 304-634-1845, anytime. I don't care. Have a question. It's kind of fun to do that and chat about stuff, right? Especially in this day, we want something positive to chat. And if you want to talk herbs, heck yeah, I'll talk about herbs all day long, So, and if you have a question, where do you get such and such? When I teach a class, what I ask is that, if I teach you how to soap, don't show up at the farmer's market and think you're going to sell soap alongside me. That's not right. And or live down the block and take a salve class and then think you're going to sell salves. Go through the trenches a little bit. Take your time. Back up a little bit.
Do research. Research what those herbs do.
Make a batch of soap. Keep it on the shelf. Use it for a year before you ever start selling. Make sure that nothing could possibly go wrong, because I don't want to make anybody sick.
Great advice. Well, you have one new follower on your Facebook page already. Someone just liked your page. So, well, thank you both for your time.
And I'm grateful for Valerie today. So, look at what we can do. But here, I'm going to let you go with these infusions. This is turmeric. So won't that be the prettiest yellow? Okay.
Wow, yeah.
Gromwell root. Awesome. Can you see that purple?
Yeah, wow.
Like a
beautiful.
royal purple. Okay. Indigo or woad.
Indigo will turn a 3-year-old to look like a Smurf.
Okay.
Just so you know, I know this by chance because my 3-year-old drenched herself from head to foot in indigo powder.
Right, and it's not funny, but it
was
wash
hysterical,
off, actually.
Wow.
So this is the woad, which is a plant, and it is absolutely beautiful. This is what the French government used to make the French uniforms back in the day. And then this is true blue indigo powder.
Are those infusions in
Smurf
oil
blue.
or in alcohol?
These all for soaps are in rice bran oil.
Rice bran oil. Gotcha.
Right, and there's several different ways that you can. There's several different ways that you can put that in a soap or a product. Like, I'm not going to use these in a lotion. I mean, I don't want to be blue like my blue jeans. But for soaps, they're wonderful.
Yes, they make some of the prettiest colors.
They make some of the prettiest colors, and I'll show you this soap, and then I'll let y'all go. This is our Almost Heaven bar, and this is a blue oxide. There's charcoal, there's red clay, there's alfalfa powder in there, and it's just a beautiful. Your possibilities are endless, you all.
Yeah, wow. That's incredible.
So, anyway, thank you very, very much, Lacey, for asking me to do this. I hope we can do something again.
Yeah, thank you guys. This has been so educational.
Thanks for letting me hang out with you.
And I am so grateful you came and hung out with me. So, anyway, bye, y'all.
All right, thanks, guys. We appreciate your time. Good luck with everything. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Wash your hands.
Bye.
With soap.
Uh-huh.
We'll see you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Here.
Oh, I love that stuff.